Ho Chi Minh City today is a masterclass in kinetic energy. It's loud, it's fast, and it's looking strictly at the future. But right in the middle of District 3, sitting quietly behind an iron fence, is a parking lot filled with ghosts. I'm at the War Remnants Museum in Vietnam, and if you stand in this courtyard, you are looking at what was, at the time, the most terrifying, technologically advanced, and absurdly expensive military arsenal ever assembled on the planet Earth. Okay, here we are at the War Remnants Museum in Vietnam, and as you can see, there's a bunch of U.S. Air Force planes that are still here. So let's take a look at some of these guys. In Vietnam, this was known as the American aggression rather than the Vietnamese War, so they looked at, of course, that we were aggressors. Coming over here, these baby Hueys and tanks. Chinook. Pretty cool that they still have all this stuff. This is probably left behind by the Americans when they left Saigon. And as we saw last night, we went up to the Saigon bar, and that's where that famous picture was taken of the people trying to climb on to the last helicopter that was leaving. And that was actually an apartment building. It was actually where the CIA were staying. Machine guns at the front. This was the boats. Just says no climbing. This must have been one of the boats that they had in the Mekong Delta that traversed through the jungles and was attacked by the guerrillas on both sides of the banks. They would come out and hit and return, and they had no idea when they would be hit. And it was some bombs back there. They would hide in the mud on the banks, sniper fire, and then leave and go into the tunnels, or hide in the jungles where they had places. Okay, the things that you're about to see here is very, very disturbing. So if you, it's about war crimes of the United States, and if you don't want to watch or look, it's showing all kinds of things. So be warned. So here we have a propaganda thing on to be more like the leader of their country, and they have a whole exhibit showing what she accomplished with the phrase, "Live like her." Madame Bien, the only woman to sign the 1973 Paris Peace Accords, is a legendary Vietnamese diplomat whose life symbolizes the unwavering resilience of a nation fighting for independence. Serving as the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Provisional Revolutionary Government and later as Vice President of Vietnam, she captivated the international media with her brilliant intellect and iconic victorious smile. She is famously remembered for a masterful psychological strike in 1969 when a Western journalist boasted about America's Apollo 11 moon landing to subtly intimidate the Vietnamese delegation with U.S. technology supremacy. She calmly delivered a legendary retort. It is true, you can send men to the moon and bring them back safely, but if you send men to Vietnam, I cannot guarantee they will return. This single, devastatingly sharp response shattered the arrogance of a global superpower and cemented her legacy as a woman of iron resolve.
Và như vậy là chúng ta đã giành thắng lợi.
These are all the photographers who died during the war. Press people trying to get information to take back home or worldwide. Agent Orange, huh? Wow, look at that. That was defoliants to kill all the jungle so that they couldn't hide. So this is what it looked like after the defoliant took effect. Just double check. All the leaves are gone. Easier to see people. Youth volunteer force. Look at that. So female members of the youth volunteer force.
You weren't fighting hard, you were fighting the second one. Yeah. Not so much in that central area which everyone just saw as black.
No, it is.
Oh, it does go all the way up there, yeah. So, yeah, that little bit there, yeah.
It's way up there. It's supposed to be on off.
Ngay từ đầu năm 1900.
Well, that Agent Orange exhibit was gut-wrenching. My goodness. It's amazing how it affected not only, we only look at it as our soldiers that were affected, but it was severely affected all the Vietnamese people. To the American military planners in the 1960s, the math of the Vietnam War seemed incredibly simple. Superior technology plus infinite money equals victory. But the Vietnam War didn't follow the rules of math. It was an asymmetric war, a clash between an industrial superpower and a guerrilla army comprised of the National Liberation Front, better known to the U.S. as the Viet Cong, and the North Vietnamese Army. The story of this museum isn't just a catalog of American military might. If you look closely at the history of these machines, it actually is a story of how the NLF looked at this billion-dollar high-tech apocalypse and figured out how to dismantle it with mud, bicycles, and absolutely terrifying ingenuity. If the Vietnam War had a mascot, it was this, the UH-1 Iroquois, or better known as the Huey. Before Vietnam Wars were fought linearly, he marched a line of guys across the field. The Huey changed everything. It was the birth of the air cavalry. Vietnam's terrain is a nightmare of dense jungles, rivers, and mountains. The U.S. military thought, why walk through the jungle when we can just fly over it? The Huey could drop heavily armed troops anywhere, at any time, provide devastating air support, and then fly out. It was a tactical revolution. To a guerrilla fighter on the ground, a swarm of Hueys must have looked like the end of the world. So how do you fight a flying tank? You can't outgun it. You can't outrun it. So the NLF did something incredibly counterintuitive. They ran toward it. This was a tactic championed by North Vietnamese General Nguyen Chi Thanh. It translates roughly into grab the enemy by the belt. The NLF realized that the U.S. relied heavily on air and artillery support, but U.S. pilots wouldn't drop bombs or fire rockets if their own soldiers were too close to the target. By engaging in intense, point-blank, close-quarters combat, literally grabbing the enemy by the belt, the NLF effectively neutralized the multi-million-dollar air advantage. The Hueys couldn't fire without hitting their own guys. It was a terrifying, bloody strategy, but it completely broke the American technological advantage. They turned the enemy's fear of friendly fire into an invisible shield. That was defoliants to kill all the jungle so that they couldn't hide. When you visit the War Remnants Museum, you are meant to feel uncomfortable. It's a very specific, heavily curated narrative of the war told from the perspective of the victors. But stripped of all the politics, the artifacts here tell a universal truth about the limits of technology. You can build a helicopter that flies over any mountain. You can build a tank that weighs 45 tons. You can drop millions of tons of explosives from the stratosphere. But a war isn't just a math equation of firepower. It is a clash of human will. The U.S. brought the future of warfare to Vietnam, but the NLF proved that if you are fighting for your home, you don't need $1 billion budget to break the machine. You just need a hacksaw, a whole lot of mud, and a willingness to grab the enemy by the belt.